Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. Today, it's just beautiful, beautiful rainy day here in Northern California. The rain is just pouring down, and the land is drinking it like a famished, like a somebody dying of thirst. Although I have to say, it is puddling up in the back quite heavily. The backyard's kind of like a lake. It's beautiful here, though. It's really nice to see. I love the rain. Before I do anything else, though, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Her Holiness, Santara. Hello, Santara from the Emerald Isle, the beautiful island of Ireland. Hello.
Hi, Chrism. I think you're having Irish weather there, yeah?
It's wonderful.
Rain.
It's nice. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I got to tell everybody that because I'm preparing to go to John of God's in Brazil, and I'll be leaving for that this evening at around 1 or 2 in the morning. So because of that, this will be a show that lasts about an hour. So just so
okay.
you know, everyone.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, speaking of going down to John of God's, a few questions have come up on some of the groups. Are you hearing? Oh, I need to do a sound check here. Is anybody hearing me in the chat room? Hello, chat room. Looking at Michelle Ranger, David, iMagicArt, Mary Jean, Katie, all the beautiful, wonderful people that come and listen to us every Wednesday, or sometimes every Wednesday. Hello, Andrew. Let's see. Oh, yes, all good, all very clear. Thank you, David. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mary Jean. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, yeah, so I've been receiving a few questions about John of God in Brazil. This will be the 4th time I've been down there. And the people that go down there, many people within various levels of spiritual evolution, they will see the beings that come through John of God, and they'll call them entities, when in fact, I mean, anything can be an entity. A fly can be an entity. But in this context, these are not the kind of entities that we would be talking about within a Kundalini context. These would be the kind of entities that we'd be talking about in an extraterrestrial context. And it is these extraterrestrials, or as I'm going to shorten it to ETs, that are plugging into John of God and also plugging into other people and using the Kundalini. These are all Kundalini healings that are given at John of God's in Abadiânia, Brazil. These are not magical. These are not given by saints. These ETs are kind of couching themselves, wearing the identity of a saint or a deceased surgeon or a doctor or someone of that level, because they know that if they came up to these people, these Catholic people, very, very strongly Catholic people, and said, "Oh, hey, we're from outer space and we're from the interdimensional part of outer space," well, they may not get the kind of positive response that they are currently enjoying by adopting the mantle of a saint or a physician or a surgeon or something of that level. And so they know this. And on my very first visit there, I also got to know it because I got to see them and I got to interact with them on their plane, in their dimension. I saw what they look like. I saw what they're trying to do. It's not bad work. They are using the Kundalini. It's not all just for healing. They've got their own uses for it as well. They don't have it themselves. They do want to have it. And so there are many levels of a win-win type of scenario that is happening here. And And so when John of God, channels through mediumship, they call it mediumship. When John of God goes into a mediumship agreement with these ETs, well, these ETs not only come through him, they come through him to talk, and they come through him to do some visual demonstrations of surgery and pain control, bleeding control. I remember my second visit there. Yeah, I think it was my first visit there. I was asked to assist another person by doing a 7-inch abdominal incision in a lady from Australia who was standing up and kind of in this trance. The ETs put her into a trance, and they gave me and this other medical person this ancient scalpel, which was sharp, and that the skin just opened up right under it. And the amazing part of that is that floor should have been flooded with blood. There should have been blood streaming down her legs and dripping on the floor, and the blood should have been all over the place. Instead, 7 drops of blood landed on my white tennis shoe. That was it. There was nothing else. John of God came over there and he reached his hand, his unwashed, non-sterile hand, and shoved it up into the wound, into the incision, and fiddled around in her intestinal areas with that. And one of the, because I kind of said, hey, that's kind of like not the way we do it in the North. And one of the translators says, oh, no, it's perfectly safe. He said, I would have the same thing done to me, and you could throw dirt in it, and it wouldn't infect. And I did follow up, and she evidently did well. So, this is a very different type of medicine, but it does work, and they do have the ability to affect pain management, bleeding management, and levels of healing that current science and current medical practices cannot do. And I had it done on me as well, and they were very effective. The healing took about 20 seconds, lasted 7 years. For me, it was a temporary healing, giving me time to find the financial resources to take care of it myself, and that was made clear to me. But it sure was effective, I've got to say. Anyway, what happened to you when you were down there, Santara? I met Santara down there on my third visit to the Casa, and she went down there, and she was deathly afraid of meeting the ETs, and she made up some sort of excuse about, I just want to finish my process, blah, blah, blah. just kidding you.
Well, there are ETs there, and it's quite amazing, really, that when you go down there, you become so aware of them in a tactile way and in other ways as well. For me, the one that I became aware of was, what was his name? Ignatius, the guy that was the soldier, and then he was the Jesuit.
Saint Ignatius of Loyola.
Yes.
I think.
Well, that's right. Thank you. I couldn't recall. That's the one that I had most experience with myself. And isn't it true, Chrism, that they just come through John of God one at a time? Am I right? I am right, haven't I?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I guess I got a little off track on what I was saying. Yeah, they'll come through John of God one at a time, but there are many of them, and they will come maybe 3 to 4 on each person that shows up. And we're talking sometimes thousands of people show up for healings there, not only from Brazil, but from Australia, from Europe, from the United States, from Asia, Africa. People come from all over the world to receive healings that nobody else can do. And one of the reasons why I'm going down there is Vincent, a gentleman who has been on this program a few times, who has had such severe entity interaction, and the Kundalini has desired it not to be solved through Kundalini that we're doing here. And during one of the Trinity healing sessions, Vincent was given the word John of God, to go to John of God, and so a kind of pilgrimage is having to be made by Vincent to go down and to spend money and to spend time and to put in, dial in some effort, dial in some strong desire to get this type of thing corrected. And he has already gone up at this time. He's already gone up in front of, to John of God while he's in, and they say in entity, but I like to say in ET. So while he's in ET, he's already seen John of God with the ET coming through him, and the entity or ET said that it could help him. So I'll be joining him on Friday. It's going to take me about 1,000 years to fly down there, and so on Friday I'll be there. I'll be there on Friday. I'll be leaving for the airport tonight at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time, and so it's just going to be a really long thing.
I have to ask you, where's your layover? Is it in Brazil, or are you flying directly?
I have like 3-hour layovers in New York. I'm flying from San Francisco to New York, and then New York to Sao Paulo, which is like a 16-hour flight, and then from Sao Paulo to Brasilia, which is an 1.5-hour flight, and then Brasilia to Abidjan, which is like a 2.5-hour drive. Yeah.
Oh Lord, yeah. It's a long one, isn't it?
Oh my
Chrism,
God.
there's a question actually that I've gathered, and it's in
Let's
relation to John of God. Will I ask you it?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it says, if John of God is not Kundalini active or aware, I'm wondering why you are going to be with John of God for the entity extraction. Interesting that ETs are involved, though I have no direct experience with ETs except via a friend who has been going through quite a difficult time with them, according to her reports. So she's wondering that question. Why are you going?
Well, let me answer that. John of God was born with a very special mediumship gift, one of which did not serve him well in his early life. He was constantly beaten up by other people, and he lived a fairly difficult, hurtful, painful life during his childhood, during his teenage years and early 20s. I met his brother one time. One of the times I was down there, I met his brother, and I had lunch with him, and looked just like him too. By the way, I was really shocked at the resemblance. And the very next time I went over, this is the second time I went down. The very next time I saw John of God, I had a private. I was having a lot of private communication with him after he'd be finished with doing his, his channeling or his mediumship work. He retires to this back room where he slowly but surely comes out of it. Well, I'd go back there while he's still partially in ET, and I asked the ET people some questions through him, and I said, "Hey, I met your brother. Had lunch with your brother," and he looked at me and he said, "You're far more my brother than anybody in my family." And that speaks of a fairly turbulent childhood, and because he had this skill, he had this level of the ability, the skill set really is the ability to hold high level vibration without having blood vessels explode and things of that nature. And so he was taken into a spiritist center where he was shown how to meditate. He was shown how to actively engage an interdimensional type of entity that would be able to express through him and commit great levels of healing upon the planet. And so he has been doing this for, almost 3 decades, or at least 2 decades, I think. And doing a fairly good job with it too. I have to say, from my own personal experience, he does quite well. I had the opportunity to sleep in what they call the Cuarto de Entidade, which is the room of the entity. And I asked the ET coming through John of God if it was okay if I went ahead and slept in the room of the Cuarto de Entidade and had them come into me so that I could see what that felt like. And it was kind of shocking for everybody around there. Evidently, that had not been done before. And anyway, so I went in and I was with his head translator who was scared to death, poor Martine. He said, okay, now all you're going to do is you're just going to pray and pray and pray and pray. And make sure you say that you're very grateful and that it's all good. Very grateful. So we did that. We went down to the healing waterfall at 10 p.m. at night. Went down at 10 p.m. and washed ourselves in the waterfall amid all those poisonous snakes. And then we walked back up to the casa, went into the Cuarto de Entidade, and he fell asleep praying. And I didn't fall asleep, but I prayed for a while until I felt the approach of the ETs. And the ETs came to me, they hovered over me, and they descended upon one half of my body. They descended on one half of my body. And I felt what John of God feels fully throughout his body. And it is a very, very strong energetic that comes on. And I could understand how blood vessels could explode over time with that type of merging. And it's not like a divine merging at all. It's not like a spinal sweep, and it's not like Kundalini really at all. It's more like a very strong, I would partially electric, but also partially not. You don't go into bliss, you don't go into ecstasy, you don't go into any of these things. It's a very strong physical, I would call it bioplasmic energy. And I got to feel that. And they said, that I could do this. They said, I could do this. They would just have to show me a different way of meditation, and, I could do the whole John of God thing, which I don't really want to do. I think it's not lesser than Kundalini. It's just a very different form of Kundalini application, I guess. And the divine Kundalini itself allows itself to be used for these purposes. These are very positive purposes. And so John of God does not have the Kundalini, but he does have this mediumship skill that it allows these interdimensional ETs to come through and to connect with an individual. They can put their hands inside you. You'll actually feel their hands going into your organs and massaging your organs and things of that nature. I've had that a couple of times now. Doesn't hurt at all. Quite surprising. It's like you're made out of Jell-O, and the hands are moving through your gelatinous body. Anyway, and I don't know if that's happened to Vincent yet. I'll have to ask him. But anyway, yeah. So it's not entities per se that John of God is channeling or doing the mediumship with. It isn't like the kind of entities that Vincent has coming through him or anybody that has Kundalini-based entities. These are ETs of a different nature and with a different motivation. And not to say that other ETs cannot do this. I've had students where I've seen a reptilian ET begin to dominate their body. You can actually see them reaching in through the chakras, the heart chakra and the root chakra, and beginning to dominate their lives. And David Icke has it quite right in many respects. If you ever read the author David Icke, that's Icke, he goes into this in a book that he wrote called The Biggest Secret. And you know, so the other ETs can do this as well. It's just that the ETs at John of God are not doing that, and they are of a more of a positive quality. Not to say that they're totally unselfish, but they are you know, there's a very good trade-off that's occurring, a much better trade-off than you know what the reptilians would be doing, you know, with other people. And so it's very important for people to understand that that John of God is not channeling ghosts or you know the spirits of the dead. He is actually channeling an ET, and they know this over there at the Casa. The people that work there, they've seen the spaceships. They had a big painting on the wall in the main auditorium, a huge, you know, poster-sized painting on the wall of Christ standing in front of a giant ET vessel. And they took that down. But if you go back down there, if they haven't painted over it, you'll see the yellowing of the outside of where the painting used to be. Did you see that when you were down there, Centaura?
Yes, Chrism, I did. I'm actually, as you're speaking, I'm having a trip down memory lane to the waterfall and everything. I'll be really interested to hear how things have changed and if they've changed. Yes, I remember that.
I'm gonna try to do the show from down there. I really want to do the show from down there. I know I've got Wi-Fi at the Posada, the hotel that I'm staying at, and so this next week I want to do the show from Casa de Dominacio in Abidjan, Brazil. Won't that be cool?
Excellent. It'll still be 3 p.m. though.
It'll be 3 p.m. Pacific time, which would be, let's see, 3 p.m. to 1, 12. It would be 11 in the morning my time. Now, Wednesday is a Casa Day. You know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? So I may not be able to do it.
It's not 11 in the morning, is it, Chrism? Are you sure?
Yes. Yeah, I go back 4, so 3, 2, 1, 12, 11.
Do you go forward 4?
I go back 4 because they're 4 hours before me.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's 12 o'clock, which I don't think it is, but if it is 12 o'clock, I'm going to do everything I can do to do the program. Let's put it that way. And I'll let you know early on if I can or cannot.
Okay, great.
But I think it'd be a very cool thing. Now we have a new person on board in the chat room, and their name is Pure Green Tea, which does have some caffeine in it.
Welcome. Maybe.
Oh no, I just lost the chat room for a second here. Come on, chat room, come back. Come back. Yeah, okay, there's that.
Have you?
Okay. And they write, I recently read a book on the teachings of Sri Aurobindo, who I love, by the way. Aurobindo is great. And the mother, they describe the physic being that helps us to reach realization or enlightenment. I was wondering if you have heard of this before. If the psychic being they are referring to is the same as Kundalini. No, Pure Green Tea. It is not the same as Kundalini, but it is kind of an embodiment of a higher soul, how do I say it? Higher self, you might want to put that down as higher self. The higher spiritual functioning self, that is, there are actually 3 of them. You have the physical being, then you have another higher aspect of the physical being, and then you have the divine invitation being. It's the divinity that Kundalini represents, not a psychic being or a physical being. The Kundalini is what those beings help you clear yourself for Kundalini, for the divine embodiment. And when you have the divine embodiment, those other 2, part of your personal trinity, are the ones that can really help you begin to process that divine understanding, that divine light. And so thank you for the question, Pure Green Tea. That's a very good question. Excellent. First time I've had that question. Let's see, going back to Amelia here. And so when you go down to John of Gods and you have these ETs coming to you, they can affect very quickly and very powerfully a level of healing on the person that is extremely effective. And so people come from all over the world to experience. You're welcome, Pure Green Tea. To have healings of conditions that medical science basically throws their chart away on. They say you may as well get your affairs in order because you're gonna die. Some people, they'll have a growth in their throat or, some sort of a pain near the rib, and the medical authorities will just throw the chart away and say, look, you're going to die. You may as well just face it, give up on yourself. Time to pray to Jesus. Right, Amelia?
Get your affairs in order is the cliche.
Get your affairs in order. That's right. And some of them are just saying, well, forget that. What do you mean? Forget that. I'm going to go down here to John of Gods. And they actually walk away healed. Not all of them. And these ETs are bound by the laws of karma. They understand the laws of karma. They are bound by those laws. So many times, some poor guy, you go up and say, hi, my name's Chrism, and I really need a healing man. And the ET will say to them, oh, my son, no, you have karma. This is your karma. We cannot help you with this karma. And that poor guy will just have to wander off into the wind and the dust and deal with his karma. Okay, so that does happen down there as well. They can prevent your death. One person was told, hey, he was a pilot, and they told him, do not fly an airplane on this date at this time. And it was just a recreational pilot. It wasn't like an airline pilot or anything. And the guy didn't buy it. He didn't believe it. He was just like, oh, I'm not going to pay. No, absolutely not. I'm better than that. And he went ahead and he flew his plane at that day and on that time. And on that day and on that time, he crashed and died. So they do have the ability to kind of chart the patterns of probability. Okay? So that's why when I'm talking about John of God, and I haven't talked really about the whole positive ET thing, I've been told this by other people as well that, well, you're not talking about the positive ETs, and there are indeed positive ETs that are out there. The Pleiarans are positive ETs. These John of God ETs are positive ETs. I don't know what star system they're from, but I know they have a big interdimensional presence on this world. There are plenty of extraterrestrials that visit the South American continent because they can be so easily hidden in the Amazon jungle that's just like nobody's looking for them there, and they don't really run into that many people there. There is a huge potential within humanity called the Kundalini that lies untapped in most people. And this is what the ETs are telling us. Okay? And so what we're doing here, myself, Santara, Rosemary, Joey, Brooke, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, and many of the other people that are really doing this work well, are very supported in bringing this level of information, this level of enlightenment to the populations so that people have the recourse. They don't have to go crazy. They don't have to, live in Ireland or, things like that. That's see it if you're listening.
True.
See it if you're dozing off. That's all. Ireland is actually a very, very Kundalini-oriented country. You go to Ireland and you can activate your Kundalini just by hanging around some of those ancient areas. Really, Ireland is Tuatha De Danann, all of that, or as they say in Ireland, the Tuatha De Danann. Very, very amazing place. And of course, there's Amelia there, and there are some others there who have activated their Kundalini as well. Very nice. Anyway, so that's why I talk about John of God in that light. And these are not entities. These are ETs, even though they're called entities by the people that don't know that they're ETs. These ETs come in, and there's a lot of them. They've come in, they're interdimensional, and they've been very, very helpful to me and to other people that have come down there, and I don't have any problem sending students down there or suggesting people go down there if they can. I'll be placing pictures of people that aren't able to make this trip with me. I'll be placing pictures of my mother, pictures of Brooke Robertson, pictures of Lasha. You know, I am willing. I'm willing to this is good work. Now, when I sit in the current room is the room where a lot of the healings take place. I see the interdimensionals harvesting the Kundalini. I see how it's done. And, you know, great circular wheels rolling down past the people, collecting their energy, transporting it into this great ball of light at the top of a very, very long, very huge energetic enclosure, and then disseminating that into the healings that are being given. So yeah, it's a positive place. And they can deal. I've seen them deal with entities. While I was down there, a guy from Africa had black magic-based entities inflicted upon him, the son of a chief. And that son of the chief came over to Abidjania, and one night the entities wreaked havoc on one of the local hotels and scared the heck out of everybody there. The ETs the very next morning apologized for overlooking that, and so they're not infallible. But they apologized for overlooking it, and they took those entities, and you never heard from those entities again. And so Vincent is down there with his possession that he's had since he was 8 or 9 years old. And so I'm very interested to not only see the difference, I'm already seeing the difference in his eyes. Vincent had some of those really, he had his eyes where he he was looking to the left constantly. Even when he's looking straight at you, his eyes were forcibly being taken to the left. And so you could never really get a straight on vision from him, a straight on viewing from him. And now he's giving you straight on viewing. So
that's very great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. And they've already said that they can help him. And I trust them. Like I say, this will be my 4th time down there. If you ever make it down there, anybody that's listening to this show, make sure that you don't chicken out at the last moment. Do the work. Trust. If you don't trust them, trust me. If you don't trust me, trust Amelia. If you don't trust Amelia, trust Vincent. It's already working for him. Okay. Not to say that he won't have to do more, come down there more times, but I think he's going to be well along a healing path. And so anybody that has these problems, it would be very worthwhile going down there. So next question, my dear.
And there are protocols, some very strict protocols, actually, that one is supposed to...
No sex at all.
Yes.
For 40 to 50 days afterwards.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And there's other things as well, but anyway.
You got to take organic passion flower capsules 3 times a day. You can't have fertilized eggs. You can't have hard liquor, or they want you to stay away from the hot spices, the hard liquor, the Irish ales. They want you to stay away from that was a joke, Amelia.
I know.
Sorry.
I was going to say something, but I bit my...
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, please don't. It's fine.
Somebody has a question. Area code 201 seems to have a question. Is that right?
On the phone?
Yeah. You see that question mark?
Oh, yes. He said he would. I'll hover. We'll just
All
go
right,
for
here we
it,
go.
okay?
Here we go. Hello, caller. You're with Chrism and Kundalini Conversation. How may I help you?
Hi, I have a question about entities. I wasn't really listening to everything because I was moving around. How are you able to really determine if it's an entity and it wasn't just like your imagination? Like, it's twice in the last week I saw something and I knew, I knew that what I saw it, but no one else saw it.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds kind of like a ghost-like entity. Was it a ghost, do you think?
Well, one time I was walking up a hall and I turned around and I glimpsed a man, and then I looked back and he wasn't there. And the other day I came home, I was looking in a hallway and I actually saw like white. It was like a white mist that just passed by, but the door was closed and it just kept going.
Right. You're seeing these lower dimensionals. You're seeing ghosts basically. You had that ability to see it. I mean, right, which is one of the reasons why I think you're probably even calling into this program. Is you kind of have a bit of a third eye activity that is allowing you to visually perceive that which other people won't perceive. And so you want to trust that. You're not making it up. Mm-hmm. Okay? I don't imagine that you're walking down the hallway going, well, I'm just going to create somebody following me that's in a white mist. Right?
Right.
I could be wrong, right?
I mean, and it's not the first time that it has happened. It just
right.
Seems
it probably
to
happened all through your childhood, too.
Yes, it seems to be increasing. I could remember as a child where I did see family members who knew me as a baby, but I didn't know them. But I was able to describe them in vivid detail. I just have been trying to figure out, is it a message that they want to bring through to me, or
No.
is it just letting me know that I'm here?
No. I don't know why you're going that route. It means that you're developing your ability to see spirits, and what you really want to do, the message you want to take from that, is to develop your spirituality, develop your connection with divinity, develop yourself. Don't just let your ego automatically think it's like, oh my gosh, I am so blessed. They want to give a message through me to the. Oh yes, no, don't go there. Don't go there.
No, it really wasn't my ego. You know what it was, or what it has been. It's like I really have been looking for some guidance to understand it, because I knew that my mother had the gift, and when my mother passed, I pretty much was just left alone. And I didn't have anybody to discuss this with. I think the
message is for you to develop the gift, and not in a mediumship way either. It's not, setting up shop and doing tarot readings and card readings and whatnot, and saying, come and visit your dead father, your dead mother, your dead child. No. No.
Okay.
Is that what you're doing?
No.
Okay. No, this is for you to develop your spirituality and to allow the development of your spirituality to enhance the skill set that you've been given through this life expression, and not to allow it to build your ego or to think that somebody is trying to say something to you. And even if they were, what would make you think it's the truth?
I don't know. I just was trying to understand it, because I know it's not the first time I've seen it happen.
No, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but you don't want to necessarily think that because it's coming from an entity that it's truthful. Mm-hmm. Entities lie all the time, and especially the ones that are in the lower form of the astral. Those are the corrupting ones. I don't think you're seeing the corrupting ones. I think you might be seeing some of the what they call a wandering spirit or a wandering ghost. You may be seeing some of those. But if you develop your spirituality, area code 201, this can take you much, much further because you're already starting out fairly, in a very good position to do this. And so what can happen is you can attract an angelic or some sort of guidance system that will allow you to go further and further and further into it without having to fall, upon the dependency of the ego and competition and making money and, all of these types of lower forms of human expression. Okay. Develop your spirituality, whatever that may be. Are you on the Kundalini Awakening group?
No, I'm not. Okay. Are you able to get the information so I could look into it?
Yeah, why don't you look into that? Start practicing a form of the safety protocols. But the first part of that to practice are the behavioral protocols, things such as unconditional love, unconditional truth, honesty, tolerance, forgiveness, compassion, trust in the divine. Practice those every day, 24/7. Then you might want to do some of the other more physical-based exercises. And I want to thank you for calling in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Lucariello. I'm sorry, I try to do that with an Italian accent. I'm not sure I'm very successful at that. Andrew asked the question, speaking of entities and black magic, what are your feelings about imagery like pentagrams and the goat of Mendes, Baphomet, or Baphomet, etc.? These are just my feelings. I mean, you want to know my feelings of entities and black magic and the imagery of black magic and things of that nature? It's just like, don't go there. I mean, don't fall victim to the devil on your shoulder. I mean, looks like I'm being reconnected. Can you still hear me, Amelia?
Yes, Chrism, I can.
Okay, so it's just the chat room that's being reconnected. Okay, yeah. So don't pray to a pentagram or some goat, that's sitting on a pentagram or Baphomet or any of these people. The people, Andrew, that are enjoying this stuff like a joke are inviting, they're inviting problems into their life. I mean, I think if they're looking at that stuff as a joke, they've got way too much time on their hands. They need to start doing something maybe a lot more positive with their life. And yeah, I know a lot of the heavy metal fans and rockers, they're doing the devil sign, with the two, which is really a heart chakra. They don't know that. Yeah, they get into that. The gothic people that are doing this and and so on and so forth. It's a death cult type of mentality, and that's the last thing you want to do. I remember in my early awakening area, I looked at the Baphomet, Gota Mendes, and it's just a full-on entity attack from that. And you don't need it. It's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to slow you down by using fear and negative attraction and hurtful, painful type of programming will slow you down. It'll really, really begin to affect you in those ways. It'll invite you towards things like Bondage, BDSM. What does BDSM stand for again? Amelia, I'm asking you because I think you know.
Oh, yeah. Reveal all my secrets.
What is BDSM? Bondage. What would be depravity? No. Bondage.
Oh, my God.
Something with a D. BDSM. Sadomasochism.
Masochism. Yeah, what's the D?
I forget. I always lose one of the words. Bondage, something.
Is one of them submission? No, bondage.
No, that would be sadomasochism, I think. But yeah, so they'll invite you toward BDSM type of practices, which are very painful, and invite a lot more demonic entities to join in the fun that they'll have at your expense. And so it's really, really, really. Andrew says it's bondage discipline, but I don't think so, Andrew. I think it's something else. Because discipline's a positive thing. Oh, and here it is. Yeah. It's bondage, domination.
Yes.
Sadomasochism. Bondage, domination, sadomasochism. These entities will invite you towards that type of an expression, and I suggest you go way far from it. I just wrote this big, long thing of sex and the Kundalini on some of the groups here. I wonder if I should read that. But I wrote this thing, and during sexual type of BDSM type of experiences, you attract a lot of the demonics that will come to take advantage and try to really, really, really corrupt you. And the sexual drive is a very strong drive within the individual, and it deals with Kundalini, and that's a very, very easy trigger for corruption from an individual. So there you have it. There you have it. And I know that everybody needed to hear this, right?
Well, that article or that teaching that you gave with regard to sex and the Kundalini, that's a wonderful teaching, Chrism. And there was some questions came up about it.
Okay.
Well, I think we're triggered, not so much about it, but I think they came from reading that. So will I ask those first? They came privately to me.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The first one is, what role does orgasm have in Kundalini awakening for women and men?
The role of orgasm is a very, very, very significant taste of divine blending. Over.
That was short and sweet. Okay.
Really?
Right.
I mean, how do you expect on? I guess I could expand on that. It's a form of divine blending that is nowhere near what Kundalini brings, but it is strong enough to satisfy and not satisfy the urge to reproduce the species. It's a very, very powerful, continuous inducement towards, of course, reproduction, having children, but also towards the divine pleasure capacity. When you have an orgasm, you really, if you have a good orgasm, you're taken, beyond the body and beyond the normal sensual, sensory-based levels of pleasure. You're taken far beyond that, and this is why people want to have them so much. It's because it feels so good, and this is partly due to the divine nature that the reproduction of the species has. When you make a baby, when you make a child, you're literally engaging in the invitation of a god or a goddess to come into this physical plane, and that's no small thing. And so you should really look at your children in that way. These are, it's a very powerful thing to make a child and to raise that child. Very, very powerful thing. And it has very strong divine attachments along with it. And so, of course, the orgasm itself in the act of love that allows the conception to occur is of a divine nature. You will make that child, and the divine is the one that allows that to occur. I hope that was. Some of these things are really beyond the
yeah,
language.
that's yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, because there aren't words really. Sure, there aren't. Yeah, it's like it kind of. Anyway, never mind. I'm not going to do what. I'm not going to even try.
It's hard. It's really hard to find words.
It is hard. It is hard because it is an expression in the physical of what you were saying there about the God and the Goddess, the divinity. It kind of reaches into that and gives us anyway, it's hard to explain. I have another question that's more down to earth.
Let me answer Andrew's really quick. Andrew Lucariello says, I had another intense episode of vocal and facial kriyas the other night. It felt like it was a process of entities leaving me. Thoughts? I wouldn't think so. Some of the Shakti kriyas and facial kriyas are going to seem otherworldly and really like animals or like really intense human expressions, and they're not. They're a stretching of the spectrum of what the physical and emotional and mental bodies can experience within the Kundalini, forcing the vocals and the facial muscles to really, really, really hyper express themselves. And so if you're making animal sounds or screaming or yelling, that's one thing. If you're cussing and making death threats or things, that would be more like an entity coming through the vocal. The facial kriyas will look very, very wild. They'll look a lot like, if you ever watched that New Zealand Maori battle thing. I forget
the haka.
The haka. If you look at the guys doing a real haka, they've got their faces all ugly and their tongue is out. This is more along the lines of a negative entity extraction. But yeah, and you would feel good after having the vocal and facial kriyas. It's not that's the Kundalini coming in. That is Kundalini doing this, and so you should feel great the next morning. Absolutely. Over. And then go ahead, Amelia.
Thank you, Chrism. What contraceptive methods are best for a Kundalini woman? Does it make any difference if she chooses, say, the uterine coil or chooses a contraceptive pill? Are there any no-nos from a Kundalini perspective?
Just a second. Well, abstaining from sex is probably the most best in a natural way. But between those two, the intrauterine coil, I think, invites more of a possibility for a UTI, urinary tract infection. The pill, kind of distorts the hormonal process, and so they both had negatives attached to them. Having the man put a condom on is probably the best way. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Will I continue? There was one I received.
Sure.
I received a question from a person who's always admired your selfless service and, that you welcome donations and didn't charge a fee for your teachings and that you wouldn't even accept donations for Shaktipat. And then, she's not against you charging, but she knows that over and over you would have said that you didn't charge for Shaktipat or that divinity wasn't for sale. And her question really is, she doesn't understand now how you have gone from charging nothing to charging $300 for Shaktipat.
Well, I have been told by my Kundalini in numerous ways and from numerous sources of her communications with me, i.e. symbols and things coming through the people that I work with, that I must charge more than she has asked of me before. And I've charged people to do a practice. I charge them to practice the safeties, twice a day. I have them do these things, and people just are not doing it. They wait for me to wave my hand. They wait for me to give my energies, and that's all they do. And this is not something that she's very happy with. And so one of these changes that she has made, the Shakti goddess herself, is that the Shaktipat that she gives through me, not that Chrism gives, but that Shakti gives through me, will no longer be allowed to be free. It has been free for 10 years. It has been free. And people have taken advantage of that. And not everybody has, taken advantage of it in a negative way, but many people have. And so for 10 years it was free, but now she wants those who wish to have it to be required to give of a value for it. She's requiring you to, give some of your material attachment, something that is important to you. Important enough to you to compel you to do the practice. If it's not valuable to you, then it's not worth lifting a finger to do it. And this is in response to our statutory laziness as a culture. Not talking to specific individuals here at all. The easier it is to get, the less respect a person has for it sometimes. So she is commanding a price for her gift. She will no longer allow this to be free. Just as one must dedicate their life to this process, so must you now dedicate some of your material wealth to it as well. And yes, this does not go against the previous exhortations of divinity not being for sale. It is still not. Your entrance into it, your golden ticket, will now require more effort and more of a priority and importance from the individual. Now she will have your material wealth of $300 per participant, in addition to the scatter fields, which aren't being charged for, and the twice daily practice of the safeties, which are not being charged for. Divinity is not for sale, but divinity can inflict a charge upon its gift of itself into you. And, we had it free for 10 years. For 10 years. 4 times a year. Now, the teachings are the things that I should be able to charge for. The teachings, taking the time of my day, all day. And in many cases, I'm going, 18 hours a day into this because, when India is waking up is when I'm starting, when it would be time to go to sleep. And so I'm staying awake for India, I'm staying awake for China, I'm staying awake for Germany, for people in different time periods. I'm putting stuff up there. And I could charge for that. That's something I could charge for. Just lately, she allowed me to charge for Skype sessions. I'd never charged for those before either. I have given and given and given. And she, the Shakti, he, the Shiva, have given and given and given. And now they want you to start giving. Because they know it's not important unless you do. What do you think of that, huh?
Wonderful. Thank you, Chrism. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, wait a minute. Brent Diaz. Brent says, Diaz. Hi, Chrism. Since we're on the topic of Shaktipat, can you speak about the different ways that Shaktipat can be given and how a Kundalini awakened person learns to allow Shaktipat to be given through them? It's the Shakti that does that with you, Brent. The Shakti comes to you and basically lets you know that this is going to occur. And then gives you, like she just dropped in protocols for me. Dropped it in. So what I would do, if this is something that you want to do, I would go deep and deep and deep into the safeties and into meditation and into devotion. For the divine to express through you a strong level of devotion and a strong level of downloads of wisdom and divine understandings need to come through you. And you need to give that as a service to people. You've got to give. And you've got to surrender completely, totally, irrevocably, without any remorse. Total, complete honesty. Okay. Go ahead, Santara.
Well, I just want to alert you now, Chrism, that the hour has come.
I see it. We're 4 o'clock. Finish them off.
Oh, well, okay, I'll read the next one and then we'll decide, okay. The next one has actually just been posted recently on the group, and it says, I would like to ask Chrism whether hearing other people's thoughts or reading their mind is normal when you develop Kundalini, like picking up deep vibes in nonverbal communication.
Yeah, that's normal. That's part of the Siddhic skill. And you're to hold that in sacred space. This is not something you'll tell your family members or your friends. It's like, I heard that you were, I read your thought. I can see your thoughts. I know that you're cheating on your husband, or, things of that nature. You want to hold it in sacred space. Severely sacred space. You don't mention it. You don't use it against them. You don't use it for them. You are grateful to the divine for beginning your Siddhic skill process within your Kundalini equation. It's a very sacred thing to be able to have telepathy, not something that you want to abuse or amuse yourself with either. Over.
It's a bit like what you were saying earlier, isn't it, Chrism? When telepathy comes, we're almost conditioned to think, we've got to do stuff with that, the same as mediumship, when we begin to see. That happens, doesn't it, with people?
Yeah, people play with their telepathy like they play with a Ouija board.
Yeah, but to actually hold it in sacred space, I mean, that's something that needs to be said really strongly, isn't it?
Yes.
It's so important.
Yeah. And it's the same with the other Siddhic skills, too, not just telepathy. Let's say you're able to have telekinesis or levitation or things of that nature. You don't go around saying, I can levitate, everybody, hello. Waving your hands like the queen going through a parade. Yes, 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 I can levitate, hello, hello. No, you don't do that. This is self-aggrandizement. This is a great way to lose that Siddhic skill.
Okay, thanks. Will I read another one?
Read one more, and then we'll have to call it a day, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize, but I got to get ready for this Brazil thing.
Okay, let me pick one. I close my eyes. Okay, how important? It's about sex again. How important is abstinence in awakening our Kundalini? Is there any good reason why monks and saints have abstained from sex as they search for God or enlightenment or their self?
Yeah, there's great reason. From a male standpoint, the sacred fluid, the sperm and the semen are not taken out of the body, but it's allowed to have the divine begin to motivate and move that liquid energy within them to be, and that goes for the women as well. Any of the sexual fluids can be used as nurturing and a support for a divine infusion. The Hindus call it brahmacharya or brahmakarya. Some other guy said it's called anking. Too close to wanking for me, but sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very, very helpful. It also shows a lot of a lot of self-discipline. And that level of self-discipline can also be very, very, very helpful. And so, the Catholic priests have it right. The Catholic nuns have it right to a degree, except they're not allowing a level of joining with the divine. They're always looking outside themselves for that. They're looking at that wooden cross, and I'm going to bring Rosemary in on this conversation since she is a mother superior of the Rosemary Goliath sisterhood. Hi, Rosemary. Rosemary. Oh, sorry, Joey. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, Joey. Go ahead, Rosemary.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking of what I have now is what I was desiring then and what they do, but it is that looking within. It was the whatever not ancient, but early Christian view of that we're not good, and you depend on Jesus to make you good.
The original sin, right? The original sin, where somebody decided to turn the act of birth and the act of making a baby into a sin. Yay.
Yes. And so there's nowhere to go, but in your mind you want to imitate and you want to be like them. And that was helpful, but very few people could really have that connection within themselves and find Jesus in there like that.
And the whole time that they weren't able to see that in themselves, that Kundalini was laying dormant at the base of their spine, just waiting.
Yep.
Waiting.
Yep.
Waiting. Yeah. Lasha would like to say hello to everybody, so she's here. You might be able to hear the purr. That's right. Here she is, playing with my hand.
Oh.
Yeah, nice sweetheart. The act of celibacy can be a very positive thing, but it's not required by Kundalini. You see, once the Kundalini is up, well, that's a different deal. Once it's up, she can turn your libido into a volcano. You cannot help but to have sex. She will force you to have sex. You see? And yet the people that are practicing celibacy in all the different cultures think, oh, my God, it's wrong. It's wrong. I shouldn't be doing it. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. There it goes. You can't begin to judge divinity once you have it along the same levels of self-judgment that you have when you're trying to come in to the divine expression. Once the divine expression is within you and changing you, well, you have to change the way you're looking at life and the way you're looking at your practices, because the divine expression has its own practices in store for you.
But even, Chrism, when people are searching for Kundalini and they're being celibate, very often it's like it's such a deprivation to them. It's not used, that energy, or we'll say that that it isn't used towards or being given to the Kundalini or the divine. It's seen as something they're depriving themselves of, I think, a lot of the time. It was that way in the Catholic Church anyway.
Also, they get twisted by entities, too, like a lot of the priests or nuns will get twisted by having more priests than nuns, I must say, but they get twisted by having these amazing sexual thoughts that they're not allowed to act on, and so the entities come in there and begin to twist them up and to torment them with them and to corrupt them, and then you start having them, having sex with little kids and things of that nature. And they're not the only ones. It's not all the Catholic priests, Anybody.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's anybody that is, those BDSM people can get twisted up that way as well.
Yeah. I need to say to you that
Excuse me, Rosemary, what do you think?
Well, what I was saying, it all makes sense of what you just said, and when that confusion of what to do with that energy, sexual energy, anybody could get diverted from what they're intending. But when I thought about it, it wasn't until I left the community in search of deeper spirituality, and it was some time before I was led, like I was in the summer of 11, to come to the seminar, and the basic truth that I could recognize, not as strongly as I have now, because it really takes a while to really own and develop that relationship within you. And I am very strong with people in my language, not offensive, but when just recently being at a meeting with people, and how many people in different modalities, they give their life to helping people, but it's outside them. Joey and I were at a meeting, and we're the two, and knowing that everything people are looking for is within them. It is the gift within us.
Right.
And it's still,
now you need to
clarify.
Left what community and went to what seminar?
I left the community I was in for 25 years, doing my meditation as best I could.
What was that community called, Rosemary, for people that don't know you?
Oh, it was a sisters community. It was a community of nuns that had been founded in, I guess, 1840 in France, and then came from Hungary to the United States, and they taught me, and so I joined the community, and I knew the only thing I had to go on is that God wanted me to do that. It didn't seem to come from me. That's true, you know.
So this would be a Catholic nun community, right?
One of hundreds, yes.
Yes, okay. And then what seminar did you go to, and why?
Well, so I left the sisters, I have to think about that when that was, but it was a number of years before. I just picked up a magazine in which there was an article about Kundalini, and I had heard the word once, one other time. I really didn't know what it was, but there was a film being shown in the cities, and I went, and still, no big lights going on for me or anything dramatic. But I was guided. I just was guided. I should go to that seminar. There were 9 of us in that seminar. And my second good decision was staying connected with you, so that I've had what I searched for in the sisters community was a real spiritual director. But it never really had the impact that you have had on my life in guiding me and with the safeties. And it's all there, too, written in other places, but when you don't have it as the source within you, it's something to do, it's something to master, and your ego is the one. And for all those years, nobody pointed that out to me like you do, Chrism. I worked really hard, but didn't get anywhere really in where I am. But the seminar, and what I stayed connected with you and received your teaching, and then what happened is that it would have been 13, 2 years later, I really saw that in that awakening process, when the divine rushes up our spine, that it leaves gifts behind. And the intention of the divine is that we bring those to the divine creation, and they're present here in our world as God intended in making the world, was to express itself like everything we all do expresses us. And when I got that, and I said, oh my goodness, we're not doing too well here in these Twin Cities, back and do another seminar. So that was 13. You had said yes, you were here in 14. And so we're still 3 of us particularly working on it, but others 2 here, that ongoingly that people get this information and hear it in a community and stay connected to others. And the community is very helpful.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Yes. Go ahead.
Chrism, could we take a question from David from the groups before you finish?
Yes, of course.
I'm putting him through now. Hi, David. You're on to Chrism.
Hello.
Hello, David. Hi.
Hey, Chrism. How's it going? How are you?
Good.
All right. I just had a question I noticed on the forum about speaking in tongues, and I was wondering what your thoughts were about a Christ-centered person speaking in tongues as far as worship towards the Christ through worship to Christ, worship to the divine through Jesus. And I'm just wondering your thoughts about that, as far as like Pentecostal, how they baptize in the Holy Spirit and so forth, and if that makes sense.
Like that?
Roughly, yeah, I guess so. And to me, I feel like it's just something that supercharges your worship in not words but intention. But I was just wondering because you had mentioned about it attracting entities, so I'm just curious.
Shabalabajumaha. No, I think for a person that's sincerely, investing themselves in the grace of the Christ, I feel that they're investing themselves really, truthfully, in the grace of the Kundalini. And
likewise, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, a person can have vocal kriyas that are not shaped within the vowel structures that we're familiar with. And this is often, I think, the case, for a person that has the Kundalini. For other people, like I've listened to these ministers, from Alabama or Louisiana or somewhere, and they're going, Jinga Hunga Hamba Hey. And it's just like I could do that. And,
sure.
and have a cup of coffee right afterwards. It's not anything real. It's an actual fraud. Okay. And it's easy to speak gibberish. Listen to a 2-year-old. Okay. But for a person who is as yourself, I feel that from you. A person like yourself is Christ-centered and is really, really forming footsteps that are walking in the footsteps of the Christ. Well, then it is a Kundalini that is coming to that individual, whether they call it that or not. They can call it the fire of Christ. They can call it the Holy Spirit. They can call it the very, very many different Shekinah, from the Jewish. If you're walking and talking the wisdom of the Christ, then you can indeed be given specific sounds through vocal kriyas that will resonate, with the people hearing it, but also with the person who is saying it. I don't buy into the Pentecostals. I don't buy into that. I think there's a great level of invitation for entity possession to come through. These people are, and yet at the same time, these people are, some of the Pentecostals are dancing with snakes, putting snakes around them, rattlesnakes, copperheads, all of these snakes. And, the Kundalini is a serpent, many times. Of course, you don't see him dancing with black widows. You don't see him dancing with Peruvian jumping spiders, one of the most toxic spiders on this world. You don't see him dancing with tarantulas. Okay, you see him dancing with serpents because that's kind of that's a very common symbol of the Kundalini, but it's also a common symbol within Christianity as Satan, the great Satan, the devil. If you buy into the mundane meanings of the King James Version, then you're going to buy into some of these distortions of what a serpent truly represents. If you're able to discern the higher Kundalini meanings of the King James Version, well, then you'll understand that the serpent is the rod, and the rod is your spine.
Yes.
Okay. But most, by far, 99.75% of the people that practice Christianity and pay attention to the King James Version will not get those understandings unless the divine gives it to them.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Some sincere, some not.
Yeah. I feel the sincerity in you, though, David, and I feel that you have the ability to truly walk in the footsteps of Christ, and I would really, truly continue to suggest that you do so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your advice and just taking the time. I know it's over an hour, so I appreciate it very much.
I lost a bet. I owe Brooke money already.
It's hard to constrain your time when you're talking about the divine, to God. It's just you talk forever, I guess. Yeah.
Well, Mary Jean, I need to know what you mean by all those pluses. Are those crosses? She's on the chat room there. I don't know if they're crosses or what. But it's a good question, David, and thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
There you go. Into the listening mode you go, and Mary Jean says LOL. She says, perhaps.
Well, Chrism, I think you need to go.
I do. I got to go, everybody.
You do.
But I'm really going to try to have the show from Abidjan. I'll be there Friday.
Chrism.
Yeah.
I checked it for you, and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is 9 p.m. It's the other way you go with the 6 hours.
What?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
ahead.
They're ahead. You're on the West Coast. You're on the West Coast of America. Everything is ahead.
Well, if it's 9 p.m., then I'm there. I can do that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Now, there's 2 time zones in Brazil, so I'm not sure which one you're going to be in there. But I think it's the 9 p.m. one, or else it's maybe 7. I'm not sure. But it's definitely nighttime. I just wanted you to know that. So maybe check it out.
That's great news.
Yeah.
That's great news. So, yeah, we'll have it there. And Mary Jean said it may have been a keyboard Kriya, which I totally buy.
That rocks him.
I want to thank everybody who's wishing me happy travels. If my plane goes down, I just want to say I love you all, and I won't be helping you from afar. You'll have to find it within yourself.
You're done with us, are you, when you're out of the physical?
I'm going into it. I'm going to obliterate. I want obliteration. So, yeah. But I love you all. And it's been a pleasure to know you all in this way and in other ways. So thank you, Mary Jean. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, Brent and Andrew and everybody who's asked questions here. Thank you, Katie. And we have Miss Star Booker just joined us, but it's just about the time for me to leave, Miss Star Booker. So, and Pure Green Tea, thank you for joining us on this program. And I'll encourage everybody to look at some of the past shows that we've done and see how you feel about that. Rosemary, thank you for coming on the program. David Grandstaff, thank you for coming on the program. And greetings to you as well, Ms. Starbooker. Santara, as always, it is a joy. And area code 201, thank you for calling in and asking those excellent questions. And any last words, Amelia Santara of the Green Emerald Isle, Ireland?
No, Chrism, of the West and delicious California. I hope you have a wonderful trip. Bon voyage. And I'm really looking forward to next week. And hopefully the show will be from Abidjan. Pronounce it for me, Brazil. What's the name of the little town?
Abidjan.
Thank you. So see you then.
Now, I'm a little concerned now because, I can't take my laptops with me. I have to take my iPhone, and I can take my iPad. And I know I've done the show on the iPhone before, so we'll see if we can do it on the iPhone again.
Okay, we'll do our best, and you'll do your best. You always do, Chrism. So if it can be done, you'll do it.
I hope so. I just want to say, spread the word around. I'd like us to have a good audience for the John of God scenario. I think that would be very interesting, because those entities, even though they're listening right now, because they know I'm coming, they'll be down there in force, and let's give them a nice reading.
That's an interesting perspective, Chrism. I hadn't thought of that, actually. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would do that. Spread the word.
Let's just say it'll be a juicy 2 hours.
Okay. Will do.
Okay. Thank you for joining in, and I'll end the show like I started, as always. Here we go.